Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, back with another reaction video. Today, we finna react to WWE's new age of complex characters. This should be interesting. This should be an interesting video. Without further ado, let's get right into it, shall we?
WWE's bread and butter has always been their storytelling, whether it's as simple as good meets evil, David versus Goliath, or long-form tales like the Chase of Championship Glory, an underdog versus the Administration Chronicle, the story of one-upsmanship, or a love triangle. But the one thing that hasn't been as consistent as today's WWE is the inner turmoil of the characters who bring these stories to life. Looking up and down the roster, you see nuanced characters that have a fantastic level of depth to them. Some unable to let go of the past, others trying to break free of what they once were, and some just straight up becoming everything that they once despised. The wrestling business for years has had so many different characters that you can go back and analyze, from supernatural beings like The Undertaker to everyman crowd favorites like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and even master manipulators like Edge. When you look at some of the larger-than-life characters over the years, from colossal giants to mystical freaks, the hardest thing to do is humanize a wrestling character. How do you make someone who's superhuman relatable? You give them personality traits, jealousy, psychological trauma, justification for their actions over the course of harm imposed to their character, because after all, a character needs to be relatable and have human traits. When you look at today's WWE, the complexity and depth to modern day characters stands out so much more than ever before. The company has made it a priority to take the whole gravity of the show into account, where things have taken place over the course of months, years, and in select cases, decades. The company has also made the move to serialize storytelling, meaning that things aren't contained to a few episode bubble before a character completely changes. For example, something so simple that happened in October of the previous year could prove to be important 5 months down the line as you get a glimpse of what the character is thinking. This is twofold. Now in the WWE, we're able to understand what the character has been going through for the past little bit, and there's continuity with long-term stories. Rarely in the 2010s were you able to sit back and analyze a character's motivations. Occasionally you get a masterclass like Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker where you could go back and see why Shawn was doing what he was doing, why Shawn was driven to insanity and obsessed with closure and could only achieve that by throwing everything away and doing everything in his power to get to The Undertaker, even if it meant corrupting his morals. Now these characters with different personalities are more prevalent than ever. There's always more to every story, and the brilliant part is everything is open to interpretation, and you actually have to pay attention in the long run. These characters, more than any other era, are commonplace. Let's take a look at some of the recent examples and also dive into arcs that may not have started just yet.
I'll never forgive you for what you did to us. I hate you.
When this era is romanticized 10-15 years down the line and TV producers do the deep dive on when these deep-rooted characters became the norm, this is the image that will air in those documentaries. Roman Reigns berating Jey Uso, using superficial sympathy, a phony attitude of trying to help him, and gaslighting to get Jey to do his dirty work and fall in line. What came to the forefront in this was Jey's underlying suppression of never being seen as his own man. Always a twin and never able to win. They pulled back the curtain and told us that he wanted to make his family proud, and the spotlight had been taken away from Jey since he was a kid. This is where you meet two of the company's deepest characters, but I want to focus on Roman. Why is Roman a bad guy in the first place? The deep roots extend to his inability to let things go. The character of Roman Reigns through his time never betrays anyone. He just treats everyone very poorly. When he trusts, he gets hurt all over again. But what was the turn and dominance a construct of? It's a construct of the betrayal of the Shield, and how that recurring chair shot continues to be his downfall every single time. The boogeyman that he just can't overcome. Seth hitting Roman with the chair split the group and sent Roman on his own path, which he wasn't ready for. That ended up bringing Roman the most mentally taxing time of his career, trying to be a good guy and getting humiliated wherever he went, to the point where he had to change his ways and rule by absolute fear. The thought process being that his adopted brothers turned on him, but his actual family never would. So he slowly built his own version of the Shield, a shield in more ways than one, using that as his safety blanket, and then beating every legend to cement himself as the best version of himself. But if you really look at things, his view is skewed. He thinks that he needs to rule through fear when everyone in the family already respected him. Eventually, it was the guy who set him on this path of destruction who deeply hurt him so much that caused everything to come crumbling down. Roman's got creative control of his character, and if you wind the clock back to Royal Rumble 2022, he couldn't beat Seth. He could beat anyone. Seemingly everyone in his path he could beat with great ease, but this one person had his number. He was reminded of the group he held closest to him and got his closure by destroying Seth with the aforementioned steel chair.
Let go of me, man. That's enough. That's enough.
He won't allow me to let go. He won't allow me.
Wind the clock forwards to WrestleMania 40 Night 2 with 1,316 days of dominance in the books when presented with the option of...
I'm not gonna lie, when we finally do get that Seth versus Roman, hopefully not just a one-off, but like an actual like tail to go down. I hope, because that's gonna be cinema right there. Fuck Cody and Roman. Cody and Roman need to stay away from each other for at least about a year. Like, we need to skip past WrestleMania 41 and we can redo that. We can rehash that again at WrestleMania 42. But for WrestleMania 41, I feel like Seth and Roman have to, that's the cinema right there. Everybody wants Seth versus CM Punk. I understand that's a real life rivalry or whatever, but this right here is cinema, bro. This story is 10 times better than CM Punk versus Seth. I'm telling y'all right now. Y'all don't see the vision, bro. The long-term book. The reason why Roman is not champion now is because of Seth. So it's only right for those two to face each other. But y'all don't see the vision. Y'all don't see the vision like I see it, bro. This is way better storytelling than Cody versus Roman for the third fucking time, or Seth versus CM Punk. Way better. I think Seth and CM Punk, they should do their match at SummerSlam next year. But for WrestleMania, this upcoming WrestleMania, it needs to be Roman versus Seth, bro. That story is that story got so much. It's so much weight to that story, bro. It's so much, bro, to just unpack here, bro. The story that these two could tell.
Of retention or retaliation, the wound a decade later hadn't healed, and the ghost of Seth Rollins came back, costing Roman everything. It's not like a decade beforehand this was the end game, that Roman would have this historic title reign and it would come to an end in this fashion. But the company went back and they made the connect to things that had happened in the past. The complexity of the Tribal Chief character also comes down to this new iteration, the original Tribal Chief. When he came back, everyone was under the assumption that because of the circumstances, he would be a de facto good guy. But Reigns himself said that he wasn't a changed man. He's got a lot of the same tendencies, checking up on materialistic items instead of helping out his family that comes to his aid. He can't automatically become a good guy. He needs a chapter of healing. He was the one who broke up twins and went about things the wrong way. He owes the family an apology to prove that he's not the same man. The arc of Roman getting the band back together could go one of two ways. Either the whole thing is yet another master plan with Roman showing his good side to gain back sole possession as the Tribal Chief, but continuing to manipulate, or a complete 180 of who the character is and showing that he has changed. If you really break down things and look at all the subtle little pitfalls the character has, you see just how complex it is. Roman thought that making people fear him was the way to go, and now maybe the character will learn what respect and love can actually do. What we're witnessing is Roman's journey through conflict and how he faced it with brute violence, the challenge that he's faced in his WWE career, and now maybe he's coming out of it on the other end.
There is only one man on earth who is uniquely suited to be your shield.
Looking back at the build to WrestleMania 40, what's the line that everyone was speculating over? It was when Seth told Cody that he was the only person uniquely suited to be his Shield. Did this mean that he was going to turn on him? Did this mean he was going to save him? It ended up being that Seth would sacrifice literally everything to destroy what he created. After all, if you look back to the earliest days of Seth Rollins' world title reign, he made it abundantly clear that he hated everything about Roman's championship reign. He hated that he wasn't a fighting champion, he hated how he won his matches, he hated that he was the champion that everyone held in high regard. If you remember when Cody was about to pick Roman for Mania, Seth talked about how the other title, Roman's title, was for posers and frauds and people who politic their way to the top. Now listen to this. A few weeks later, the same night that he told Cody that he would be his Shield, he said this.
You wanted to take everything from him, and deep in my soul, I felt that.
In the same promo, he said that the man Roman Reigns is partly his fault, but he could have never imagined the monster that he unleashed. Seeing inside of Cody that this was someone who would go to great lengths to do whatever it took to beat Roman, considering Seth knew firsthand after seeing Rhodes compete with a torn pec a few years beforehand. But he knew that he had the one tool that no one else did, so he stood side by side with Cody. Earlier I said it's interesting to speculate on some of the arcs. You gotta assume that he's got a mega match with CM Punk lined up come WrestleMania 41.
No.
But after that, in the grand scheme of things, why would Seth Rollins, the man who did it all and lost it all, let Cody Rhodes go? He teamed up with the one person he went out of his way to beat with his body barely clinging on. Plus, there's an unresolved final chapter with Reigns and Rollins. These two examples are well linked to each other, but then you come to the most compelling character of the WWE calendar in 2024.
I prayed for this and it happened.
Sometimes you become what you set out to destroy. This is the story of Drew McIntyre, a man who fell into the trap of hypocrisy and over the course of a few months became a reflection of everything he despised. Imagine chasing a career-defining moment and losing, then getting another shot and losing, then losing again. You'd start to wonder, is your way of going about things what's really holding you back? Clash at the Castle in front of his friends and family, he suffered the biggest loss of his career, and the reason he lost was because of Solo Sikoa, and that would be his villain origin story. Jey Uso made the move to Monday nights, and when you look at things from the perspective of Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, Jey was the good guy in the story, just trying to make his family proud, trying to forge his own identity, but at every single turn he was manipulated. But to Drew, Jey was public enemy number one because he was once a part of the bloodline. Drew, while not a full-out bad guy, was starting to show hints of frustration, while guys like Cody, who also lost because of Uso, saw him as a changed man. Drew didn't. Cast your mind back to 2020. Who was the guy that cost him his champion versus champion match at Survivor Series? Jey had to win back the trust of a lot of guys in the locker room, but Drew was a guy he just could not win over. Listen to this line from Michael Cole.
Drew McIntyre coming after everyone who wronged him. Drew McIntyre is a bad dude with issues.
Drew McIntyre is a bad dude. Weird considering that for 4 years, Drew had done things the right way. Smile for a smile, you got my back, I got yours. But it's in this time frame where you start to see the complexity of Drew McIntyre, throwing his morals completely out the window. Drew over the next little bit would continue to tell us what he believes. Not only that the bloodline screwed him out of his moment, but how he believed his moment was always taken away from him. That gave you an avenue into what Drew was truly thinking. You're someone who's had their biggest moment come in front of no one after you did everything in your power to make it back to the WWE. But despite you thinking that the moment will come, it never does. So you stray away from everything that makes you you and chase that moment no matter what. He ended up losing to Seth Rollins at Crown Jewel, but at the same time you saw him mixing it up with members of the Judgment Day who he aligned with heading into War Games. Hypocritical because he was bashing Jey and the Bloodline only to go on and side with a group causing just as much chaos. It was on this night where CM Punk returned to the WWE after years away, and his hatred for Punk would prove to be his demise. At one point, you could see that Drew was shedding off what he felt onto CM Punk, telling him that he's going to crash and burn because Drew had been consistent, maybe in his mind thinking that he's one injury away from never getting to the mountaintop. He later proclaimed himself as CM Punk's leader. Punk and Seth Rollins was the planned matchup, but at the Rumble, it was Drew who inadvertently injured Punk, going on to take his position as #1 contender. Of course, not planned. Now, yet again, Drew had the chance to chase the ultimate moment. Earlier, I said that he became what he wanted to destroy. Well, remember how Solo helped Roman win? Solo caused an interference in a McIntyre Rhodes match, and Drew did exactly what he hated others for doing. The textbook definition for hypocrite is a person who claims or pretends to have certain beliefs about what is right, but who behaves in a way that disagrees with those beliefs. Well, once again in this video, WrestleMania 40 proves to be important. In the build-up, Drew consistently told Seth Rollins to focus or else he'd lose it all, considering that he was busy with Rock, Roman, and Cody. And it was because of how beat up Seth Rollins was from the night beforehand that helped Drew get the ultimate victory and finally achieve his moment. Drew was correct that his focus was somewhere else, but it was actually Drew who wasn't focused on this. He finally had everything he ever wanted. He finally got his moment, only to take his eye off the prize. Instead of soaking in the biggest moment of his career, he went to show off the title to CM Punk, who ended up being the reason that he lost the championship. Damian Priest came out to cash in, and that was the end. Punk was provoked by McIntyre, making this statement the first time the two met even more important.
I'm not a demon. When pushed, I'm Satan himself.
Well, Punk was pushed and over the next little while became the biggest thorn in Drew's side that you could imagine, costing him every opportunity, making sure he didn't come anywhere near that title, and in the process, Drew multiple times over did things that he proclaimed to be against. And this character wasn't just one of these people who was disrespecting the crowd all the time. During this transformation, he was actually high-fiving fans. He wasn't taking jabs at how awful they were all the time. His slow change in demeanor made sense. He had justification for what he was doing. And if you want to talk about guys who have justification for what they're doing,
I should have been on top of the world, and instead what I got was people telling me, you don't deserve to be the champion.
I ain't gonna lie. That promo segment, this previous Friday on SmackDown, I ain't gonna lie, they was cooking. Kevin Owens and Cody was cooking. I ain't gonna lie, that was a good ass promo for sure.
The only reason you won the title is because of Triple H.
Wind the clock back to the October 13th, 2023 episode of SmackDown. Nick Aldis announces that Cody Rhodes was instrumental in bringing Jey Uso to Monday nights, and in exchange, a Raw superstar would come to SmackDown. That ended up being Kevin Owens, and on Raw, Owens talked about how the locker room didn't want Jey on their show. Owens was visibly upset that Cody brought Jey over, with him asking Cody why. Why would he bring over a person who Owens fought wars against? Why would he essentially turn his back on the entire roster by bringing such a disturbance to the room? Cody said that he brought Jey over because he deserved a second chance. In this promo, Sammy, Kevin's longtime best friend, said that Owens takes longer to warm up to people. And you really saw the depth of Kevin Owens, who didn't forgive and didn't forget. Going on to tell Sammy that Jey was the reason he didn't walk out of Elimination Chamber as champion. Jey was also the reason that Cody didn't walk out of WrestleMania as champion, remembering what had previously happened over the course of years on WWE TV. This simple October segment has so much weight to it because Owens tells us something very important. He doesn't trust Jey, but he does trust both Sammy and Cody. Keep in mind, the WWE title is something that's evaded Kevin Owens for so long, and what I believe is the central point of all of this and what makes this so interesting is Kevin Owens at one time was the most sadistic, cold, and calculated version of himself. Because if you remember, at one time, he was the prize fighter. I think when you look at this arc, it's actually quite genuine. It's about Owens trying to be a good person, trying to let go of the evil man that he once was and stick up for his friends. but a variety of factors, including his trust being broken by said friends, is what led him to quote-unquote turning heel. Heading into Bash in Berlin, you saw the slow callbacks to prizefighter Owens, looking at the WWE title just like he did to championships in 2015, thinking about pulling the trigger, but then thinking better of things, giving Cody Rhodes the benefit of the doubt, because I want you all to remember, post and pre-WrestleMania, Kevin was helping Cody fend off the bloodline. And remember how earlier I said that Sammy said that Owens was slow to trust people? In this, he built a friendship with Randy Orton, someone who in his heyday was just as much of a killer as Kevin Owens was. He let Orton in, he trusted him, and the two shared a bond. Spending all this time fighting that group, you can imagine how someone would feel to see the man that they gave the benefit of the doubt to teaming up with the enemy. The breaking point came at Bad Blood when Cody teamed with Roman Reigns, and that was it. Kevin could not see that. This was the final straw before Owens attacked Cody with the show already being off air. This adds to the gravity of it. The first place Owens found Cody, he let it all out. In his eyes, Cody betrayed him after his body took so much punishment to fend off his mortal enemy. This rage also led to him breaking his friendship with Randy Orton, one of the few deep bonds that he shared in the company. When you look at the parallels between Owens and Orton, you really see why this dynamic worked. Two men who share qualities of ruthlessness but have suppressed that in order to become better versions of themselves. Now just imagine how Owens will feel when he sees A, the bloodline with Jey Uso back to its most volatile form on his show, and B, his best friend, the man that he was reluctant to go back to pre-WrestleMania 39, back with the group that he's been fighting off for years. Owens' character, much like Drew, is justified with his reasoning. But what about his buddy Randy Orton? Where does that go?
I will always and forever have your back. You know this.
Listen to this simple line from Triple H.
I am not protecting Kevin Owens. I am trying to protect you.
Who knows Randy Orton the best? It's Triple H, the guy who saw Orton kill every legend in his path, the guy who handpicked Orton to be a part of Evolution, the guy who literally saw one of the most destructive wrestlers of all time. Triple H, now having a different role, says he's protecting Orton from himself because he sees that, similar to Owens, he's become a good friend and a good person. How this relates to Triple H not letting Randy fight Kevin Owens is maybe he sees Owens as the guy that'll help Randy realize that it was Cody who broke up a bond. Maybe it's Kevin that'll make Orton blood hungry again. Randy and Cody have a history dating back to their time in Legacy, and over the course of Orton's career, he's always been on the pursuit of championship glory. Multiple factors could be in place to have Orton slowly turn on Cody. Remembering his desire to be champion again could be one. Maybe seeing that one of the few friends he had and held in high regard was taken away from him because of Cody. Also seeing that Cody shared a moment with the bloodline at Bad Blood. Orton, another man that's gone through wars with said team.
You don't know what it feels like to have to fight.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be good to see the vicious, vile, evil Randy Orton just come back, because that's what's needed if they're gonna do a Cody versus Randy feud. Like, if we get a Randy versus Cody feud, he has to get the bloodlust back. The bloodlust of Randy Orton has to come back. That's the only way that's the only way that match is gonna work.
Fight for everything you have.
Before wrapping up, I wanted to take a look at a more simple example of a character growing in the company. Damian Priest had one of the most simple yet effective stories in recent times, bringing someone from faction to top star and from bad guy to good guy with a simple premise. If you look back to Damian Priest's time in the Judgment Day, you see a man who is influenced by those around him, wanting to cheat, calling for help, and undermining opponents. After he won the World Heavyweight Championship, he slowly started to ask for Finn and Dom to stay away and let him handle business on his own, gaining confidence in his ability as champion, which was twofold. He started to grow into his own entity, but it made people within the group feel like he had different intentions and didn't care for them anymore. The Priest character was then humanized to a larger scale by using things that had actually happened in his life beforehand as the backstory heading into SummerSlam 2024. And sometimes it's very simple. If you quickly want to look at a different example, take Sami Zayn and Gunther into account. That took weeks to build because on the surface we could say that yeah, Gunther's not one of these deeply layered characters, but why do he keep saying no to Sami's challenge for a world title match? Over and over, the guys beat down everyone. Why not give Sami a chance? Well, because at WrestleMania, Gunther started toying with his opponent, took Sami lightly, and that in turn led to the demise of his championship reign. So it's that underlying fear that he masqueraded as Sami not being worthy of having a world championship match. Of course, these are characters and examples that I've cherry picked, but there's a lot more of these throughout the roster, but you gotta pay attention to the subtle hints. Now, not every character has these deep-rooted good and bad guy stories, and I really like that. You need some of those classic wrestling characters. They really cannot die away. You can't have everyone be so deep-rooted because then some won't understand it. If you take a look at things big picture, you see similar characters that have over-marinated and the trigger isn't pulled with them. Take Chad Gable post WrestleMania 40, for example. There are some stories that go on for way too long, and there is a such thing as too slow of a slow burn, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have also felt. In any case, loyalty, jealousy, betrayal, wanting to better yourself, all of these things have been prevalent in the company and the world of wrestling for many years. But in today's WWE, the focus on having deep-rooted characters is more prevalent than ever.
I agree. I agree with everything here. I think that the complex character, it works with certain people. You can't do it for everybody. Some guys you just gonna have to do other things with. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can't be in these deep psychological storylines that build over time to change up their character when you want to make them face or heel. It don't work like that for everybody. Some people you gotta let be the funny. You gotta have your goofy wrestlers. You gotta have your gimmick wrestlers, aka the supernatural ones like Kane, Undertaker, Bray Wyatt, The Fiend. Yeah, all that. Then you gotta have your normal wrestlers. The normal wrestlers, the John Cenas, the John Cenas, the Batistas. You gotta have certain characters where it's just not. You don't have to put too much depth into. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to put too much depth into them. You just have to let them go out there and just do what they do best. But yeah, man, that was definitely a good analyzation of that was a good breakdown of all the major players right now, from Roman and his psychological trauma with Seth breaking up the Shield to not Cody, but to Kevin Owens and his psyche has gone over the years. How he really has matured over the years. That is true. He's really matured a lot over the years. He's gotten better. He's not just randomly just attacking people and then just throwing them through, power bombing them on the side of the ring anymore. Yeah, man, this was a really good breakdown. Ooh, I chose a good video. W video for me. Can I get a W video for me one time, please?
Shut your lame ass up, nigga.
But anyways, just gonna about do it for this one. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, peace out.